And I've kind of built my reputation sort of on the ability or the decision to come out and say some things that other people won't. And I'm going to do that here today. Before we begin, I have a few caveats for the listening and watching audience. You won't really be seeing or hearing anything new here today. That may come as a shock to some people. You know, some people may be encountering this information for the first time, but it doesn't really mean that it's new. It's been happening. It's been ongoing. Just because it hasn't been perceived yet doesn't mean that it hasn't actually been ongoing. So nothing in this presentation is new or uniquely mine. The old saying, there is nothing new under the sun, means that truth is objective and it is eternal, and reality remains reality whether or not it is recognized and accepted as reality. All I can do in giving a presentation of this kind is put it in a personalized framework and then apply my personal aesthetics to it. If you're easily offended, it's probably a good time to get out while the getting is good. The exits are in the back. They're clearly marked. My presentation style is often extremely intense and at times even combative. I don't sugarcoat my words or my delivery. Some of you are very likely during this presentation to possibly become upset and angered based on things you're going to hear me say. So be it. Let those emotions be felt and deal with them. The truth itself, by its very nature, is combative because it wages war against mind control. I don't present this information to be liked. I don't present it to be popular. I don't present it to make money or to make friends. I speak publicly because I recognize that in a time of such overwhelming ignorance and deception, the fact that I do understand such information regarding what is taking place in our world today places me in a position of moral obligation to communicate this information to other people in an attempt to help them to understand it and to do something about it, to take action. So get as offended as you like. It's not going to change the truth. Don't fall prey to emotional mind control. See, people make the fallacy of wanting to think with their emotions about what's true or not. It's a very slippery slope to go down. So every person who wishes to take away real value from this presentation should make a deliberate and conscious effort to do two things while watching it. You should set aside your personal perceptions of me as the presenter, a very difficult thing to do, admittedly. This includes things like how you think I look, dress, or sound, or my delivery style. Paying attention to such trivialities will detract your mental focus away from the information that I am presenting, and that is what is important, not me as the speaker. Be consciously aware of any impulses you may have to reject this information based solely upon your initial emotional reaction to it. It is a logical fallacy to gauge the truthfulness, the veracity of any information that you are encountering based upon how it makes you feel when you first hear it. In other words, ignore the information in this presentation today due to your own ego bullshit at your own peril, because this agenda is real and happening and it affects all of us. Watch the whole thing, not in pieces. Watch the whole thing. This information is a tapestry, and in turn, it is a part of an even larger tapestry that includes all of the information that I cover as part of my work. It is meant to be taken in as a whole in its entirety. To gain maximum value from it, I recommend that you stay for the duration of both parts, tonight and tomorrow night. If you don't do that, you are most likely not to recognize the full pattern that is inherent to the tapestry that I'm trying to weave here. To gain maximum value regarding all of the information that I present, of course, visit my website, whatonearthishappening.com, and check out all of the video and all of the audio on that website. I have always been someone that has tried to listen to reason regardless of how uncomfortable it made me feel. The people that I have respected the most in life have told me hard truths that I did not want to hear and that at many times I was not prepared to hear or to listen to. But they said it anyway. Those are the kind of people that I respect and look up to. And another thing I'd just like to say is the old adage, if I have seen further, it is because I have stood upon the shoulders of giants. I'm not the first person who has recognized this information or this agenda. I won't be the last. This is about a building on people's former work that they have taken the labor of love to put out there for others. I am not on any side except for the side of truth and freedom. This presentation isn't about taking sides. That's the side I'm on. Truth, freedom. Those are my values. That's what I find important and indispensable in life. I'll take those over being liked any day. So let's get right into it. Introduction and definitions of the concepts that we'll be talking about in this presentation. This presentation is building upon my presentation from last year's Free Your Mind conference, which was called The Cult of Ultimate Evil, Order Followers, and the Destruction of the Sacred Feminine. And in that presentation, I explained how order followers in the police and the military are absolutely annihilating the dynamic of care in our society. And they are just eradicating it. And they are silencing people and stepping on their rights. And they are taking direct aim at heart-based intelligence. And they are putting it to death. So this presentation here today, of course, while last year's presentation focused largely on men, who are the vast majority of the order followers of our society. Of course, there are women order followers as well. But to be honest, they're the strong arm of the New World Order control system, the dark New World Order control system. Let's be honest, that the order followers who are implementing that slavery system are largely comprised of men, military and police, who actually do the violent behaviors that they're ordered to do. This year, I'm shifting the focus and I'm talking about the destruction of the sacred feminine, specifically within women, within females in our society. And this is no less deadly to the dynamic of care in our society, which could act as the creative and cohesive glue between people that helps them to awaken and to change the world for the better. Unfortunately, this agenda I'm going to be talking about is shutting down the dynamic of care in many women. I call this agenda, the neo-feminism agenda, the elephant in the room. It's so big, and it's actually so obvious that it acts like this old adage, there's an elephant in the room and nobody notices. And it's because a lot of people don't want to hear this. They don't want to talk about it. It's uncomfortable information. It's information that people really cringe at bringing it up because of how touchy some of the topics in this are. This quote here, it's funny how everybody considers honesty a virtue and yet no one wants to hear the truth. It's very difficult to hear painful truths, especially if they may apply somewhat in some ways to you yourself. This is a great quote. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot unlearn the many lies that they have been conditioned to believe and seek out the hidden knowledge that they have been conditioned to reject. I would add to that and say it's the hidden knowledge that they have been conditioned by mind control to ignore. This information that I'm presenting here today isn't so much occulted. It is ignored because bringing it up to people can create very uncomfortable social situations for the person bringing it up. And that's why it remains largely unspoken. The information I'm going to be presenting is controversial. But what does the word controversial mean etymologically? The word controversial comes from the Latin adverb contra, meaning facing, face to face or up against, and the Latin verb versare, which means to change or to alter. So when we put those together, the word controversial, literally in its root meaning, its root origin, means coming face to face with change, having to deal or having to confront the prospect of changing yourself. That's why things are often controversial. You cannot change what you refuse to confront. You will never create lasting positive change by running away or not facing something that needs to be faced and dealt with. I would not be willing to potentially alienate a significantly large portion of my entire listening audience by talking about this topic, this controversial topic of neo-feminism, if it were not real and critically important for us to understand. I am the furthest thing from a misogynist, and anyone who knows me personally will testify to that fact. I do not have hatred in my heart toward women. I will not make blanket statements here today in this presentation about, quote, all women. I will, however, during this presentation, be speaking in generalizations about most women or the vast majority of women. And here's a very important point to really take note of. It will be very important to note that even when I do use the term women in this presentation, I am referring to what I call the inauthentic woman, or the conditioned woman, or the mind-controlled woman, or the socially engineered woman. And when I say men, I'm also largely referring to the inauthentic man, the socially conditioned man, the socially engineered man. And these are concepts that I will explore later in the presentation, the inauthentic woman and the inauthentic man. So just keep that in mind. All feminism is not equal. There is a world of division, a world divide, a world of separation between classical feminism and what I term neo-feminism. Now, other people have used the term neo-feminism, okay? And I want to just say, I am using neo-feminism in a specific context here today, which I'm going to talk about and define. You know, these are two images that I think clearly depict the difference between what classical feminism represented, okay, votes for women. And, you know, that's misguided in its own way because you're picking your master or enslaver, but that's another, you know, that's another discussion. But, you know, and neo-feminism, which, you know, here's a woman screaming into the camera with the words, "fuck your morals," printed on her chest, written on her chest, okay? You know, you could clearly see the difference in consciousness between these, you know, types of individuals. So classical feminism had certain basic points that it desired for women. It wanted equality for both genders in natural human rights. And this, of course, is in keeping with natural law. Everyone, regardless of gender, race, color, ostensible religion, whatever, has exactly the same natural rights. No one has any more or less rights than anybody else under natural law. So, of course, everyone should be equal in natural human rights. I mean, this goes without saying. So in that sense, I agree with the principles of classical feminism. Women should receive the same pay in the same job for the same work that they perform. Well, who shouldn't? Why should anybody discriminate with pay for work that is being done? If it's the same job and you're producing the same end result, of course you should be compensated similarly. There shouldn't be discrimination in that respect. I can get behind that concept. Classical feminism believed that, you know, the genders should be equal in their rights and there should be no patriarchy or matriarchy in society. Men shouldn't be in control and dominate women, and women shouldn't be in control and dominate men. They wanted cooperation between the genders. Again, another concept I can get behind completely. So in that sense, I could consider myself a classical feminist. I have no problem with any of those concepts. Now, neo-feminism, on the other hand, took things into a very skewed extremist mindset. It wants, in many ways, additional, quote, rights for women over men in today's contemporary society, which I cannot agree with or get behind because there are no special rights that any individual has over any other. We all have exactly the same natural rights. Neo-feminism often attempts to equate the genders in all aspects, in characteristics, capabilities, etc. Not just natural human rights. You know, being equal in rights doesn't mean we're the same and can all do the same things, okay? We all are unique individuals with different unique characteristics. So it's not about sameness. It should be about equality under rights, but not trying to equate everyone exactly identically and make them all the same. And neo-feminists, many of them, believe that matriarchy should replace the idea that they have in their mind that there is a currently entrenched patriarchy in our society. And I will address the fact that that is a myth, an illusion, and we don't have either one of those dynamics in our society today. This is what classical feminism looks like if I could give it an image, you know. And that's what neo-feminism looks like if I could give it an image in your mind. And I wholeheartedly agree with the one on the left there, and you know, the one on the right, I think it takes things to a ridiculous extreme. Neo-feminism, ladies and gentlemen, is an act of war. It is a program of social engineering or mind control, which is specifically targeted at women in order to incite a war between the sexes in a divide and conquer strategy. The long-term goal of this manipulated war is to weaken both genders to such an extent that it becomes much easier for the entrenched ruling class to subjugate both men and women under their worldwide system of totalitarian control that they are currently well on their way to building and completing. They are waging a gender war against both men and women through the neo-feminist agenda. Why do this? Why a gender war? Lots of reasons. Most people are completely ignorant to the fact that the ongoing and largely undeclared gender war is actually an occult eugenics agenda. My intention in presenting this information is not to further divide the sexes, but to illustrate and expose this eugenics agenda, which is being implemented by dark occultists who seek to subvert the true natural order and replace that natural order with their twisted and depraved religion of slavery and death.